Let's talk about the subject of feminism.
So we just had a fantastic presentation here at Ilm Summit by Julie, and I came in. I was just saying to the girls, I came in with no background knowledge of feminism. It was just one of those terms, like a lot of Muslims out there. I think you just you look at the subject and you automatically just get an uncomfortable feel. Well, I personally get an uncomfortable feeling about it, and it's like, yeah, I don't associate myself. The term Islamic feminist does not coin well
What's
with me.
uncomfortable about it?
So it's just a lack of knowledge, not knowing exactly what the movement's about, what the values are, what the principles are.
Okay.
So going through Julie's presentation, I still don't want to be associated with that term, but now at least I understand the parts of it that do fit the Islamic framework and the parts of it that I believe definitely don't. And in my eyes, what I was saying is that when you're talking about women and our rights and our principles and what we've been given, that's been given to me by Allah. So I don't need a movement to provide that for me,
Okay.
or to hold that narrative out there for me to have those rights. But I understand in the context that we're living in that that needs explaining to people.
Well, no, well, what about, I mean, granted, there's a lot of things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given
Right.
men, women, elderly children, but a lot of that is not necessarily realized due to cultural setups. And for that reason, you'll see movements like feminism, like liberalism, things like that emerge for people to, I guess, initially get what they feel is their right.
For me, I don't see the term feminist as being a stigma. A doctor today has a different role from a doctor 20 years ago. It's just a word. But I think, like anything, like language in society evolves, equally the term evolves. I'm actually very comfortable being seen as a feminist because I've taken back my own power, both within my community and in terms of my relations externally. Recently I went to a filmmakers get together on Sunset Boulevard. I was invited by a British producer, and it was a week after Abdo Charlie, and nobody spoke to me. And there were a couple of Hollywood stars there as well. They looked at me constantly, but no one spoke. So I left, and I actually had a word with her about this recently, and she said, "Oh, nobody meant it." And I said, "Well, I've never been somewhere where no one's ever spoken to me. It was clear that I didn't know anybody." And so people, I find, in my industry see the scarf before they see the human. And it's taken me a while to get over that, because I'm a human being that happens to be Muslim. Now, the upside of that was I was looking for a place to live. And I was focusing on maybe moving into the LA area. But after that happened, I went to the masjid in Anaheim and I just cried my eyes and said, I can't go on like this. If this is my destiny, I need to be among people who are like me. And I think that was the best thing that happened to me, because that incident empowered me to define myself as Muslimah first. And maybe it was part of the qadr of making me, reassess where I was, because my original reason behind moving here was because I felt frustrated that I'm not meeting Muslim artists. I'm not vibing with artistic people.
Did you find a difference in just the way people treated you in the UK versus how they treated you here?
Definitely.
Okay.
People are a lot more open-minded. They're open to dialogue. And I find the average person on the street doesn't see the scarf, which is why the contrast was so stark for me.
Okay.
To go somewhere where they're supposed enlightened storytellers and people just saw the scarf.
I think that it's interesting when you just look at the whole concept of feminism. And with me, with the experience that I had with feminism is I was born in Somalia, but because of the civil war, my family moved to Pakistan. And it was during that time, we had the president or the prime minister was a woman. And as a young age, I grew up seeing a woman as a prime minister. At the same time, there were also Afghanis that were there. So in terms of that, having that identity of what's known as being a refugee, if the term you say, oh, you want to be in power, to feeling like disempowered, if that's what people think in that concept. But what's beautiful about that experience is understanding at that very moment, others might see me at that moment, oh, look at, this person that didn't have a country or no, in that sense. But our culture, the Somali culture, I know in our culture, there's like poetry. That's how people express themselves. There were powerful women that spoke about this experience. And so knowing that, coming into
engage in some of the poetry?
No. No. But yeah, so having that image and then coming to the US at a young age. And again, my identity being redefined for me. Now I became, as a refugee, and you come in and then you become, and that was the first time I found out I was Black. I never knew that identity, right? So
Interesting.
And
So when you didn't come, when you weren't in the U.S.,
yeah,
how did you see yourself?
I was Somalian living in Pakistan.
Okay.
Then I came to the U.S. I became Black or African American.
Okay.
So, and also, within that, so learning about feminism for me, the people that were very, historically, when you go back and you learn about person like Sanjur Truth, and I hope I'm not butchering her name, a woman who was an African American descent, who her speech about Ain't I a Woman is talking to not all women in the world, but also talking about how she herself didn't even have rights. Women were considered as property. So, that to me was profound. So understanding the historic background of feminism, I have appreciation for that sense, but I know in terms of where I come from, the woman that I know in terms of whether it's in Pakistan, Fatima Ali Jinnah, there are some women I look up to, and in each country, they will have a movement that have their own name. So I think that in a Western perspective, I understand what feminism is, and I understand with my colleagues as a social worker. I have colleagues in terms of that we worked in social justice projects that we collaborated, whether it's in education or healthcare reform or immigration reform. There are some issues that I firmly do think that we need to work together, not only as Muslims as well, and everybody. So for me, it's understanding the context and where people are coming from. And there's some things that we disagree upon, and that's fine. And there's things that, we share.